This very short video will explore what we mean by controlling for a variable in statistical analysis. The example I'm using here is entirely hypothetical. I've exaggerated the numbers for effect, but it is based off a real statistical problem that emerged in public health. But again, I've exaggerated the numbers for clarity. So let's imagine that the percentage of bourbon drinkers with cardiac problems is 32%, and the percentage of red wine drinkers with cardiac problems is 12%. We might conclude from this comparison that red wine is actually healthier for you than bourbon. But what if the median income for bourbon drinkers is much lower than the median income for red wine drinkers? When we're comparing bourbon drinkers to red wine drinkers, what we're really doing is comparing low-income folks to high-income folks. And almost all health outcomes are better for people with higher incomes. So really, we're not comparing red wine versus bourbon. What we're comparing is wealthy to poor. Are wealthier people healthier? Yes, generally. Do wealthier people tend to drink wine more than bourbon? Yes. Do poorer people tend to drink bourbon more than they tend to drink red wine? Yes. Do they tend to be less healthy? Yes. Okay, so if we really want to know what the effect of red wine versus bourbon is on health, what we have to do is control for income. What do we mean by that? That means we would compare the percentage of red wine drinkers and bourbon drinkers at every income level and see who had more cardiac problems. So we compare bourbon drinkers and red wine drinkers at $10,000. Bourbon drinkers and red wine drinkers who made $15,000, all the way up to $100,000. And what we see here is that there is no real difference between bourbon and red wine drinkers in terms of their cardiac problems. There is, however, a significant difference between their incomes. So when we control for income, we're making apples to apples comparison. All red wine drinkers who are making $10,000 versus all bourbon drinkers who make $10,000 and comparing their cardiac problems. Again, controlling for class is an important thing to do in statistical analyses. And we can substitute bourbon and red wine with chances of being incarcerated or jailed or anything else we want to do. And that would be the same kind of relationship as I've described here.